from North America. We're talking about it beforehand, but match number 5 of 54. You can see we're cutting through them today real quick.
And interesting, actually, we do see Rumblers bailing immediately out of the plane. So this is obviously, they've identified they're not going to be able to go to Chumacera, even though I think they had an opportunity to drop for vehicles, but we don't often see anybody come up to Alcantara.
Really, we have a lot of teams in the NPL that like to play back down towards the south. Where are they at? I guess the land is greener, we shall say, because it is actually greener back down in that area. And the hills provide a lot of interesting loot locations. With this plane path, it's going to make it a little bit more interesting, so we'll probably see a couple of people going for vehicles. Last time we saw that, well, I would say we almost saw that in a round. It was one of our pretend rounds that we saw there, that they did manage to get a vehicle and led to a little bit of an interesting skirmish.
Yeah, and ultimately Vanquish and Wildcard obviously resetting back to the more typical drops that they would opt for, but no real surprises here, obviously, other than Rumblers, but you just touched on it. We do actually have a fairly kind of east and south heavy drop here in the NPL lobby. So it's interesting to see now that obviously we don't really have anybody south of the middle line.
Well, now they don't have to go there.
Now they don't.
Has popped.
Everybody knew this was happening. That's why they dropped.
Yeah, I know. And look, poor Trailer Park still never gets any love. No one ever loots Trailer Park. I think it's just because of the theme of it. Nobody wants to be known as the team that loots Trailer Park, because what does that say about you?
Yeah, you don't ever want to be the first to do it.
So with this, you can see really it's just that cluster of teams over in Impala and Tempo Storm's backyard, essentially, that are going to have to figure out how they want to make it inside the circle. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a lot of rotations way up next to over in the north towards Oasis. Then we might be able to see a couple of interesting things come out there, as you can see. Yeah, Tony V and Taylor J, as well as Bale Frost, making their way over towards, I guess, wherever they're wanting to loot at.
Yeah, let's actually hope that United's motorbike trip goes a bit better than last time. They did get caught out in rotation last time, but looks like they are just taking this bike into Los Leones. Actually, Pat Caps as well had making his way into the north side of Leones. So United need to be aware of that, because Sharu is way far up north next to Minas. So we have Stab down by the Eastern gas station just outside Impala. United in a bit of a split right now, to be honest.
I mean, NV and United over in Los Leones, these two teams should be very comfortable playing around each other in this positioning. Really, it's going to come down to where does this NV crew decide that they're going to loot at. Usually they do play up towards the northern parts of it, and I guess a couple of the buildings that are on the outskirts / suburbs of Los Leones, to say the least. And who would have thought it is going to be Genesis hanging out in Picado doing a little bit of loot? I would be surprised to say they're probably going to leave Picado here relatively soon if they're sticking to Genesis strategies.
Yeah, we do see them usually make the move around the 3:34-minute mark, so they don't like to waste a lot of time. Obviously, looking at this right now, obviously with the addition of Sonics coming in with the power grid job, that's actually something we haven't had to see Genesis kind of combat in this NPL lobby. So it's going to be interesting to see actually on Miramar if this does play a factor towards Genesis' rotation.
So we do have Stab coming in a little bit late. Terragate's still pushing up and forward. It feels like Envy feels that nobody else is around here. Gonna have to be very careful. That big lampshade that he's got on his head could be quite revealing to the United players, but I don't think Balefrost heard the car driving up either, because he's still on a hard loop as well. So a couple of shots now coming out towards Lamp a lot. Already stuck back over here as Shrew is going to be the guy on the other side of this. So United just, apparently they just want to fight everywhere.
I mean, this is the thing. Shrew started all the way up by Minas next to Loki and Ghost. So the fact that he's actually managed to get out with a reasonable loot stack. It looks like he's got a level 2 helmet and a vest. He's got himself a vehicle, but just needs to be conscious now that he's going to be coming into the north side of Leones if he wants to regroup with the team.
What's interesting to me is that we're seeing a lot of these teams still commit to Leones as their looting location. Even though it's not inside a circle, wasn't a long plane path, and they're still going to have to make their way back north into the circle. So that could make for a little bit of interesting skirmishes as everybody's making their way back towards the safe zone.
Yeah, and I mean, a big factor here is knowing that the plane was obviously north of I guess the midway line through this map. They're going to have the opportunity, if they come south to Leones to loot, they're going to have the opportunity to loot south, because they're going to know south side of the circle is least congested.
I mean, you have to
come around, yeah.
As an ex-player, you would know this. You're assuming, okay, with it being in plane path, and Shrew gets a couple of bullets back over towards his noggin as he just drops back down in that little bit of a ravine. So Mooney's going to take the shots and force Shrew away. Shrew just wants to be with his friends, and it looks like that's just not going to happen anytime soon.
Yeah, I mean, we said he'd have to be a bit cautious coming into the north side of Leones if he wanted to group up. It does look like he's going to opt to just move out west of Leones. It does look like we've got Balefrost and Taylor J already starting to rotate out. I don't want to see Stab get left behind here. And that was kind of what fell apart with their previous bike rotation, which was one of the players being left behind and getting picked off.
We got Wildcard. They're kind of the kings of the north. Nobody else really too much further north than them. La Cabrera not getting a lot of attention, and so really it's just Wildcard that's making their way through these hills. just trying to loot up as they go, see where they want to kind of play around. But I mean, they're already pretty centered at this point, and they're running a 2-2 split, as you can see them separated across this with that valley that's kind of in between them, so it can kind of protect each other depending on how rotations come into play. I guess they're also assuming a lot of teams rotating towards the north.
Yeah, and there's a couple of weird spots in the north side. As soon as you come out of Pozo and kind of head northeast, there's some really weird terrain, but what I like to see is obviously teams splitting, controlling two sides of like a hill, and not allowing other teams to rotate into kind of the valley in between.
Genesis already on the move, making their way back over next to Sonics, who's waiting for him. I like the fact that Genesis does wait for a second before taking any shots, getting a little bit more information what's going on around it.
Genesis getting third-partied all the way over from the west by Endemic, so actually Profi nearly getting run over there.
Oh no, Profi! Somehow he lives through that. I mean, he was pincered between that and the ground. But what's really rough about this is K-Mine already committed to the push. He's already up in Sonic's face, so he's kind of by his lonesome right now. He's going to go ahead and take some shots back over towards slowing down the other two members of Sonic's. He's buying a little bit more space and more breathing room for the other members that are trying to avoid car problems. Can he stop them? No, at least denying one of the members out. So Tickleton, though, is going to be in that high ground spot, and we know Tickleton can hit some shots.
Yeah, and actually H-Win coming all the way over to this side of the road to back up K-Mine. Right now I want to see Profi and Nerf kind of get into a position where they can oversee this fight and help H-Win and K-Mine push into this compound. Right now, we're not in center, but this is a compound probably worth fighting for at this stage.
Looks like the Sonic members are waiting for Genesis to push up into that warehouse area. It's right over there. The barns, whatever you want to call them. So if they push into barns, you can see that Willie and Tony V are waiting for it to happen. That's also kind of where Keenan was positioning as well. Profi's kind of playing still around that back area. He's got that car next to him. I'm curious if he's going to take that car across or if he's just decided he doesn't want to have anything to do with it. So a couple of shots now going out. Well, close, but not going to do a whole bunch of damage.
Yeah, going to pop one shot off onto Willie there, but Sonics now, they should just full reset. I don't think they're in a position. It does actually look like Endemic are actually pushing over quite close to Genesis, so
K-Mine retreated back out of it, so they're pulling away from this. Now everybody from Genesis is regrouped. They managed to push their damage numbers up just a little bit. This is why they always end up with such high damage numbers. You know, take shots at whatever's around you,
but drive away.
Yeah. Don't always have to get it down. Sometimes it's about sending a message.
But this is I guess, an engagement. I think we're probably going to see quite a lot. If we see any northern circles here in Miramar, we're going to see these two teams engage over these sorts of compounds time and time again. And this is the thing where, you know, if you push a compound once, you die, you think, oh, you know, back to the drawing board, we'll try it again maybe if the situation's there. But the fact that Sonics have out-rotated and got to a compound that Genesis usually would occupy, it can kind of throw a kind of curveball into the mix.
We see Hatchroyd's kind of by himself right now. The other members of SSG are, I would say, close. You can see them off in the distance. They're at least rotatable too. So Hatchroyd looks like he's trying to make his way back over there. Just took a couple of shots at Riot Squad as they were driving through on this. See, Rumblers are going to take down Finna, and he's going to be the first blood of this game.
Yeah, and actually we do see Rumblers engaging with Riot Squad as well, so we jump back on Taylor and Stab. I did want to see Stab not get left behind in Leonis, but
we've got Player One Esports pushing down through Los Leonis right now.
This is what I was saying. I mean, these teams are going to assume the south side of the circle is least congested, which is why we see wraps like this. We actually see three teams on the south side outside of the circle, which is Tempo, E United, and P1E, which have all come from the east side. But I mean, if you look at teams like Loki and Envy, have actually already just made it into the circle, just kind of saying, well, we're not going to mess about with rapping like that. We're just going to go.
So going back over towards El Pozo and Crater Fields, looks like where the circle's going to be making its way towards. Tempo Storm, no strangers to spinning the first circle inside the blue. This is kind of their tried and true strategy. No big rush coming up from them. United has to be cautious, though, because, I mean, right back behind them, they do have another team, and that's going to be Player One Esports. I'm kind of curious to see how Player One Esports chooses to go through this rotation.
Yeah, and ultimately right now, Envy being quicker off the mark, if they stop and do any scouting, they might actually catch all three of United rotating along this road. P1E have made the option to come south, but United's actually looking for a way into this circle before they've even scouted anything.
I mean, it's just right on the edge of Monte
If we look at the minimap right now, look at Taylor J.
He's right back behind them. Surely
I think he spotted it.
Yeah, he had to spot them on the road. But the problem with it is if E United continues to push over, they're going to have Player One Esports that drives up right back behind them, or Tempo Storm off to the side. And right now, you can see where we're talking about Envy, but you can see Genesis off on the point. There's so many teams just moving into this location.
Yeah, and ultimately Genesis just need to look for a spot on this side. We do see Lampola actually knocking himself, but we do see Zenith actually rotating through this terrain here. I'm not sure entirely what they're trying to get to here.
One hit point, he manages to make it away from that. Sonics really wanted that one, but under a lot of pressure there. You can see Tickleton looking back over towards Walt Jr.
Oh, no.
He's going to go ahead and take that one down. So it's going to be another death going over there. Sonic's getting more kills already at this stage of the game.
Yeah, and actually, this is one of the reasons that this compound gets prioritized. Is this valley that runs alongside the mountains east side of Pozo? I mean, people try and send it through there. There's just so much open space. You can lay so much fire down onto these vehicles.
And look, Envy does take over that position. They're watching everybody rotate around them. They do see Genesis go ahead and take up a little bit further of a northern spot. Tempo Storm is just off to the west of this, but E United still is yet to make their way through. Guess what? Let's add more to the party because Ghost is also making a rotation around this similar location.
Yeah, and actually, I mean, E United should keep going west, but ultimately they're going to run into Tempo if they do that. But they haven't got a lot of options right now. They haven't scouted anything. And obviously now we're in a position where we're just going to have two teams fighting over like the extreme south edge of this blue. And Envy, unfortunately, have occupied the one compound that stops anybody getting in from Monte.
So Envy does take over that position, and Taro looked like he wanted to get inside of that, but instead just going to go back over, hop in the Murado. Envy going to be on the move. Wouldn't be surprised if they make their way just a little bit further up towards the north. There is also a crate that's going to be landing around that location, so going to have to see how everybody decides to deal around the south, because with Envy already moving, Genesis already trying to opt to a new position as well. Finally, we're seeing Player One Esports and E United push along the similar path. If Envy had waited probably a couple more seconds, they would have gotten something out of that. So now we can see Endemic taking a couple of shots back down. Rotations happening as it's going to be Riot Squad. Again, these guys they get caught in fights so early.
Yeah, and what's actually interesting to see is in the two teams occupying Pozo right now, Riot Squad and Endemic. And SSG, actually, this is something I haven't ever seen them do, but they've actually prioritized the church compound on the high ground above it. So that's interesting. We'll have to check in with that a bit later on. As we do see Envy actually moving north out of Monte towards this concrete construction building. Obviously, Moody calling that the crate's up and Moody doing Moody things and going for it.
If there's two teams you do not want to be caught between, it's Tempo Storm and Genesis as you're going for a crate. Moody, I hope you can make it away from this. If you do, you're going to be so happy, but you're just going to be happy to have your life at this point. You can see Zampa wants this right now. He's like, oh, that means this guy's got to have some good loot on it.
Yep, and he's at perfect Mini 14 4X range. So, unfortunately, not going to... I don't think he spotted him coming back off the crate there, but... wow, we see one southwestern hard shift, and then we see
look
right
at that cluster right where Envy was at. That's where Player One Esports, Ghost, all those guys were at earlier. So Envy's now made the shift up towards the north. Man, this is going to be a party right now.
Ghost are actually about to pull up on P1E, so I'm pretty sure P1E have to be aware of this. But I mean, this is what I was talking about. They're going to end up coming in this late. You're going to end up fighting over nothing on the south extreme side of blue.
Tempo Storm's already making their push back over towards Pozo. Looks like they're thinking about stopping around the same spot that Riot Squad is. So Riot Squad, again, finding themselves around a whole bunch of friends in the early game.
Yeah, an interesting decision there. Obviously, wow, Pat actually was in great MK14 shots onto H-Twin. And another one to Nerf. Wow. Pat Cap's hitting some insane shots there to knock to a Genesis. This could be huge trouble here for Genesis.
I mean, Pat Cap's just stood there. That was open and open on this. Taro's making the push off to the side of this. Profi's realized he's in some hurt. He's the last member alive for Genesis. So, I mean, I thought that Envy was going to be like full-on pincered, but they managed to fight their way out of that one, and now Genesis is just done. Profi's hopping in a vehicle and praying that he sees nobody in his path to the circle.
I mean, the unfortunate thing is P1E have actually pulled up southwest of Envy right now. So if Envy don't start moving quickly, they're going to get held by P1E.
Profi's luckily in a tank, taking a lot of damage as it goes through there. Still got 3/4 of its life. Just looking to see, got to be very cautious as he makes that push off to the side of it. But he's just going full send right towards the center of the circle, praying the fact that he will not have to move. And I kind of like this. Just go ahead and say, at this stage, not everybody's fully localized yet. It's better to have to go for the center now, because then I might not have to move more later.
I want to see him send it towards the rocks. I think he's going to settle for this dip there. I don't know if he's actually got some terrain to hide around there, but we do jump back on board. Envy actually engaging P1E on the edge of the circle. Lampalot does trade that out onto Pride, but Moody getting a knock onto D-Treats as well. This is looking bad for P1E.
Envy is still just looking around. You can see Lampalot's going to go ahead and take down Pride, but it's going to be from outside and in the blue. Lampalot is the last member alive for his squad. And I mean, he still has quite a ways to go to make it inside the safe zone, so he's just going to duck down and tank. Envy's like, we did our damage. We're happy. We're content. We're just going to go ahead and let these bleed out. Looks like they're just going to go ahead. Well, actually, I say that. Pat Caps has apparently got the bloodlust right now. He's on the hunt. Does see where Lampalot's at. Lampalot's going to go ahead and prep that grenade. And I think that Pat's finally they pull the leash back and they're like, no, Pat, we've got to go.
Come back. I mean, when you're hitting shots like Pat just was on Genesis there, I can understand him looking for this kill, but not a lot of value in it, to be honest. This is just a one kill. We're not at placement points yet. Unfortunately, I think It's not really worth killing the time
To be
that
fair,
Envy are.
Ripolot's doing a lot of damage to Envy. He's making it. They're having to fight for it while they're outside in the blue.
I was about to say they might lose Tero for waiting this long here. Ultimately, Tero does shut down Lamp a lot, but I mean, look at what Envy have got to go now.
How much utility did they burn inside of that? That's going to be a lot of meds. You know, that's a lot of armor damage, helmet damage that potentially came back their way. So, New Circle does pop, and it's going to make its way just to the outside of Crater Fields, and it's going to be all of those guys around El Pozo or just on the other side of the crater wall. I mean, we got a ton of teams stacked over there. We've got E-United, Low-Key, and Space Station Gaming all within about 200 meters of each other.
And then the worst thing is, to the south of that, you have 3 teams, arguably 4, with Ghost. As we do see Envy, actually, like we said, it took way too long. Actually, Fignalo, wow, getting an opening knock and the flush onto Taylor.
Looks like Headshore is just going to go ahead and use this opportunity to get out of here. He hears the fight that's happening, gets you a little bit more space, push off to the side of that, and looks like I like the position that they're making their way towards. Low-Key is still just kind of looking around. E-United finding themselves in a little bit of a difficult spot that they're going to have to work their way through. They've got to essentially climb up this mountain and have to contend with 2 different teams on different sides as they go. And that's just to maybe make it towards the safe zone where Space Station Gaming is already in a great spot to wait for them.
Yeah, and I think actually Space Station are getting a lot of pressure over from the east here. So Lazarus doing a great job of pressuring Space Station as they have to rotate in. But
here's the problem, though. E-United took those shots back over towards Tempo Storm. Sure, they got the down and the flush, but now that's going to let everybody on Low-Key know there's a team right here. Do you see the repositioning coming through? Pax, Pignaldo, they're on the hunt for it. A couple of shots now starting to come through. Grenade just bounces right on the outside of Pax as they're bouncing around between these rocks. Shrew is making his way up. Is he going to spot anybody out? Goes for a spin back over towards it. Does get one of them. Shrew does take a lot of damage off that. Trying to go for the flush and gets knocked off of it. Big does go down. And that's going to be another E-United follow-up with that. So there are 2 members of E-United still up and alive and 2 members of Low-Key. But the other 2 members of Low-Key, I don't think can capitalize.
No, and ultimately, I think here, if they get a res back on Shuru, they can reset on this, get a better position to fight from. Lobes and Chuba ultimately now are in a really bad spot. As I was about to say, because SSG can hold them, but Headshot getting knocked by Waldo here, this could open something up for Low-Key.
So Low-Key has to figure out what they're going to do. They need to push back forward towards Space Station Gaming, who's kind of made a wall. Down to the south of Space Station Gaming, there's Endemic that's in that position, as well as Riot Squad back behind it. For whatever reason, Moody is still just way outside on the other side of Riot Squad. So Space Station Gaming, they're just trying to get control over this location. I do like this spot for now, but again, it comes into that problem of if people manage to make it inside the safe zone and you have to rotate out of this, this is going to be hard.
The problem with this compound, this barn that Valier and J-Sank are occupying is you can't peek anything. As soon as you look out south and try and hold a team, you're completely exposed. There's no obstacles inside the building, so ultimately I think occupying this on the edge, they're in a better position if they try and regroup with Baja.
Look at the mess that is back down towards the south. You saw Envy driving through that. Moody, the last member of it. There is just a ton of teams up towards the north. Moody is going to go ahead and stop, and he's right next to Sonics, who are, again, on a great run right now. Moody is just kind of looking around for him, just trying to see if anybody's out and around this position. He knows that he's going to have to push through. Riot Squad still just trying to crawl their way towards that safe zone. It's going to be Endemic that's holding them up. But nice shots coming out from Mystery is going to allow a little bit more of a push forward. You can see that Lada's already up in this. Deezy's back behind it, but Lada's just going to go ahead and walk right up and get the down onto Wolf as well as a flush.
And actually, yeah, if Riot Squad can capitalize on this right now, they're going to have some space at the edge of the circle here to fight their way onto the next rock. So, wow, Mystery with a knock onto Crispy as well. This is falling apart for Endemic.
Now it's just something. Looking back on the side of that, nice shots coming out. Going to go ahead and get one, but it's not going to matter. He's going to go down. But the damage is done. Riot Squad's going to lose 2 off of this. They already know he's thinking about later. That's as good as done. Don't even waste the utility off on it. Now they just have to figure out, okay, we're at the edge of the circle. What do we do next? Space Station Gaming, looks like they got themselves a little bit of friends, and that's going to be Vanquish.
Yeah, Vanquish actually coming all the way out of their compound to crash Space Station on this one shack. And actually, yeah, Valier flushing J-Tank.
Oh,
and then Reno getting a knock onto Valier as well.
Nice hold onto that. Goes for the spin back over towards it. Bob narrowly survives that. Now he's just running through, trying to get whatever point he can, get the flush onto it, looking back around, trying to figure out, okay, where's the rest of the team? And it was just that one guy that was up there doing all the damage to Space Station.
Yeah, I'm not sure what happened on there with Valier flushing J-Tank out. I'm not sure if it was an awkward sightline through the door or what, but Reno putting up a big stand to hold on to this. Now,
Here
we're going to see,
push, though.
Yeah, we're going to see Vanquish crash in.
Yeah, they're pushing onto it. They know there's just one member left. Jumping out 2 members. Got to figure out how they're going to make the push onto it. The grenade's going to go through, but it does not matter. Baja's going to go down inside this. They do get a little bit more control off to the side of it. Meanwhile, you can see a little bit of a replay as a little bit of the skirmishes that were going on different parts of the map.
Yeah, I mean, great play from Vanquish there, obviously identifying. I would have liked to have seen that happen a bit sooner to come and help Reno. Maybe they could have kept 3 alive there, because it felt like SSG were on the back foot in that fight. And, I mean, a great effort from Reno.
So VZ's managed to walk his way right to the middle of the circle and going to go ahead and make friends with the Rumblers over there. But Lada's actually right back behind E United, so VZ's got to be very, very cautious.
Micro's creeping all the way up behind VZ here. We haven't really talked about that much, but Rumblers had a really wide split. I mean, they had the entire north side. As you actually see, wow, later actually shutting down Balefrost at the same time. Kerr gets the knock on to Stab, so straight away, E United wiped in seconds.
So now Lada's going to have to make a very difficult run back over here. Lazarus do have themselves a nice high ground position, looking back down towards Lada, so kind of forcing them to play back in this, and he's got the blue right back behind him, so this is going to be a very difficult run for Lada. I don't think there's a lot of good options. He knows that he does have one team. He heard that fight a second ago, so going to have to be very cautious about that. Tempo Storm holding back on the other side of Vanquish. So there you go. Vanquish is going to take down the shots. Can Lada at least make it to the rock? But even then, where do you go at this point? All the fancy feet, he's going to go down, and that's it. Now it's just on to VZ, who's taking a little bit of damage off in the distance.
I think VZ's about to die to Rumblers. It looks like he's taking damage there on the minimap, but jumping back on board. Tempo actually managed to send it. They actually lost this fight over by the church, so the fact they managed to get here is actually pretty impressive. Lazarus already up to 4 kills, so the most we've seen from Lazarus so far.
They've got Zenith right on top of him. You can see Roth is just on the other side of this. Meanwhile, you've got Sonics that are pushing back over there. Zenith's Kendo, Ghost. There's a lot of people fighting across this hillside right now. So McCoy is down. Shrimsy's off to the side of this, but Kendo's just trying to make it back over towards the safe zone. He's going to get dropped by Tony V. Great shots coming up for them. Sonics at 4 kills with 20 people still alive. It's starting to feel like Sonics just managed to get a good grip on this mid game.
Yeah, and actually Lazarus spinning around fighting this, fighting 2 fights effectively. One on the west and one on the east. This nade, I don't think he's going to clear Roth out, but yeah, great awareness from Lazarus there to kind of shut Ghost down. They had an opportunity to push up in third party both of those fights, so really important play from Luke there to swing round.
So we do see Lazarus. They do have a little bit of the edge of the circle that they can play with. They have one member of Zenith remaining. That's going to be Roth just right up in front of them. Meanwhile, Sonics looks like they're making a little bit of a push back around onto this angle. There aren't a lot of really clear paths on this hillside. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see Sonics at least contemplate making a push back this direction. Don't forget, we still have Ghost that needs to push back over here and Vanquish that might choose to come along a similar path onto it. Roth does get spotted out from Tiggleton, but that's going to give Lazarus information to know that the other team is pushing up in that angle.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, straight away, McCoy replying onto Tiggleton. So actually, Ghost now helping out Lazarus after getting knocked by Lazarus initially. We are going to see Ghost actually make the push onto the hill. This should be a huge fight because we've got 3 teams that need to find something on this edge.
And Lazarus is right on the edge of it. It is their home territory, but it's really hard to hold some of these angles. As you can see, there's a lot of third-party potential that could be happening from multiple shots. They have to be very cautious on it, but the entire time that they're being cautious, that's allowing Sonics to move a little bit closer. That's allowing Ghost to try to go for another reposition. Really, it's Ghost and Sonics that are fighting right at the doorstep of Lazarus, and Lazarus is just letting it. They hear the shots, but they just don't want to overpeak for it. Finally, Luke decides to go for it, and he does get dropped by Tony V.
That's a great knock from Tony there. 1 HP, he's got to drop a med, but Ghost now should be looking to make advances on this. Kurt does reply with an A, gets Tony down. Ghost now, I want to see them push. I want to see them wipe out
Vegas,
Sonics.
Off to the side of this, was trying to get a nice flank back over towards Lazarus. Keenan looking back over towards Shrimsy, goes for the spray, but it's going to be the hill that provides a little bit of protection. It's going to be McCoy that follows that up. Sonics is now down. Lazarus does have 1 member down as well, looking back down towards Ghost, trying to figure out exactly where they were.
This nade could be good.
Can they connect with it? He has to know. That's going to be a really hard roll back down that hillside, so got to be very cautious. Alo still just playing the backside, trying to just lean up against the wall. There's no real space for them to retreat to. He's got to be the point man. He has to look back down this and protect his teammates. And instead, he retreats away from
it.
Shrimsy! He's going to go ahead and get down from a grenade. What?
That was absolutely huge. Actually, Alo taking some damage from Rumblers there, so he had to fall off the top of the rock, and Shrimsy landed a great nade. Oh no! Luke just dropped a nade on himself.
Uncivil.
And he flushed himself.
And now Ghost is just walking up and taking this away from Lazarus. Uncivil's just trying to hold this back as much as he can. Does get the down onto McCoy. He is the last member for Lazarus. Does see Shrimsy off to one side. It is just this truck that's providing him some form of cover. Shrimsy's trying to pick around one side, Vegas off the other side, and there we go. Ghost does manage to take claim to it. But let's not forget, Vanquish has been listening this whole time, and now they want to join in. There's plenty of points to be had up here.
One nade.
If they walk back up, Tetra does see Shrimsy. Not going to connect onto it. McCoy's just going to go ahead and bleed out. That's going to be another point that goes back over towards Lazarus. Vanquish gets 1. Vegas goes for the peek onto the other side of it, and look at that. Vanquish comes up and manages to survive.
I mean, that would have been great if Ghost had come on top with Vanquish pushing in for the third party there, but I mean, heads-up play from Vanquish to push up when they did. Timed that perfectly. Unfortunately, Ghost still on the back foot trying to get that res off. They just got cleaned up.
The best part about that was Rumblers and Tempo Storm were just like, man, that sounds like a lot of fun.
12 people just died. And we didn't see anything. So.
It's like, oh, well, hey, that's cool. They're just kind of hanging out there. Now, Tempo Storm's right on the edge of the circle. 2 members of Rumblers are going to need to make their way over towards it, but nothing too terribly nuts that could happen inside of here. We have the crater wall that's just going to kind of cut through this, and it's going to make it to where Rumblers can kind of control what's back over towards the east right now, because we do see Vanquish. They are pushing back over towards the western part, so that gives them a potential skirmish around where we see Tempo Storm at and Rumblers front facing.
I mean, ultimately here, Tempo, arguably have a 3-second place here, because Vanquish are the ones that have to make the moves here. They can just sit. They have the shack in the building, but a great early split from Rumblers here. Look at it. Look at how it's paid off. They control so much of this.
Vanquish is at 7 kills right now. It's not like they've just walked up and decided to take this one last tail into this fight. They've been fighting their way to get to this point, but there are so many Rumblers alive right now. Tempo Storm, they've got a nice angle back down onto this. That's how come they're just having to cling to this cliffside and use whatever cover they can.
Yeah, and Tempo are the ones in the position to kind of strike if we do see a fight break out between Vanquish and Rumblers, but honestly, I don't think we're going to see it. Rumblers right now occupying the highest point of this ridge. They have complete oversight of this circle, so...
I mean, it's a couple of shots going back and forth. They know where Tempo Storm's at. They've been eyeing him for a while. You can see it's going to be really about how Tempo Storm decides to make a play off of this. They heard the firefights that were happening beforehand, so they have to assume that Vanquish is going to be pushing along a similar path for them. But really, no clear sight lines on anything does Tempo Storm have, so they're just kind of bouncing around. Meanwhile, you can see Vanquish is trying to creep around the outside of this to try to see if they can find some type of high ground route to get away from Tempo Storm and potentially just spring a trap over towards the Rumblers.
Yeah, ultimately, Vanquish, I want to see them try and, they've got the 7 kills. Right now, anything on top of this is a bonus. So I want to see them be more aggressive in this late game, especially when you see a circle shift like that.
Rumblers get the circle, and now it's all going to be onto Vanquish and Tempo Storm. How are they going to move off of this? Neither team really wanting to move at this stage because they know that Rumblers do have the sight lines.
I mean, Fozu actually has a great line of sight down to this compound, so I want to see Tetra now stack with Fozu and then just look for these 2 bonus points in Sharpshot on Zampa.
Looks like Tetra is looking back over towards Rumblers. A couple of shots now coming out from the Rumblers, looking towards Tempo Storm. Grenade's going to come out from Los, just try to buy a little bit more time and space. Naturally, if they can just stall Tempo Storm there for long enough, the blue will do the work for them. So as long as they find the right angles to contain them. But the problem is, if the Rumblers spend all their time trying to contain Tempo Storm, that could allow for Vanquish to find some type of break in the wall to get a down. That way they can push through this. Yeah, Fozu's looking back over for it, trying to find it.
I mean, ultimately, Vanquish have the opportunity to take the high ground here. They're going to have a spot to play. Where Fozu is, as you can see on the minimap, he actually has a spot to play on top of this ridge here. So if they can fend off Tempo Storm, force them towards Rumblers, and hold on to the spot they're playing, this could be huge for Vanquish.
It feels like Vanquish is having a little bit of decision paralysis. There's just too many targets, and they don't know which way to look. Tetra's playing around the outside of this and is wanting to look back down and see if Tempo Storm's moving forward, but Tempo Storm's already managed to make it across this hill. Meanwhile, Rumblers are just trying to reinforce their backside to make sure that they don't have anybody that pushes on the flank of it. But
Sharpshot hears him. Yeah. He hears him. He hears Tetra right next to him. He sees that nade as well. Tetra has no idea.
Waldo's way back for Rumblers right now, not going to have any good sightlines. Really, it's about Cherry Poppins and Microfly, who are already just trying to claim the center of it. Tetra's looking back down, now does see Sharpshot. The angles are coming through. You can see the blue is pushing both players, trying to get some type of sightline back over towards it. Tetra gets a little bit of damage out. The blue is not actually going to take down. We can see Sharpshot still looking back over towards it. Finally, he does go down, but Fozu's had so much damage thrown his way. Zampa wants to just capitalize off of this. That's going to be a little bit too far, I believe. And now you can see just the slow creep up from Zampa. He's the last guy that's going to have to try to figure out what he's going to do off of this. Waldo's holding a nice angle back for it. Now, how are we going to see Rumblers make a play out of this? They have to find the angles for it. They know exactly where Zampa is. It is now a 1v3, and Zampa is just trying to outflank them, circle around. But Rumblers know exactly where he is. He's just trying to bounce from whatever cover piece he can. Look at Cherry Poppins on the other side of this. There is nowhere for Zampa to go. Really, can he get a down off of this nade? Can he get a little bit more space? Because he needs it so much. That's going to do a little bit of damage. Going to get the down on a low.